I thank everyone for joining on time. I do want to give a couple other folks maybe another minute or two before we really dive into the program today, which is really all about the power of pre-call research. And then we are privileged to be, co-leading this myself and Frank Bastone. And yeah, it's going to be a very exciting program. Cool. Brian, today was like one of the first times I talked to you on the phone, and now I'm getting to see you in person. I was just also meeting with Eric, who you work with as well, and he was excited about that opportunity that came from Pasadena.
Yeah, it was a great meeting. Thank you guys for helping us facilitate that, because that was a tough cookie that I was trying to crack.
Yeah, and then I did, just for side conversation, I shared the reports for Eric are now going to be sent to you as well. So those top digest reports that are coming to you weekly, you'll get your own individual report, but then Eric will also have his sent to you too, which is cool.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, we've waited a minute or two, and I don't want to waste anybody's time. And again, I thank you all for being here today. We are going to be led by Frank Bastone, and all about the program is the power of pre-call research. So I will share my screen here. Anybody want to share maybe what some of their pre-call research methodologies are, just questions or approaches? Anybody that wants to maybe share what they've done before and anything like that?
Oh, I'll share.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you guys have any questions, you can certainly shout them out. But doing a really good pre-call research before you call into a company is so valuable, and it's underused. We can all look at LinkedIn quickly and pick up a few things about somebody, but the deeper that you dig, the more that you find. And when you're selling into bigger organizations and you're selling to somebody, especially who is not maybe the decision maker or not the head of the company. When you go to a LinkedIn page and you start to look at things, you can look at things like how long they've been with the company, which certainly means something. Are they new, or have they been there for 20 years? Are they the founder? How many who work at the company? What they're liking and sharing, and what groups they're on LinkedIn, and looking for commonalities with them. People share things about their personal life, and people share things about their private life on LinkedIn. And the more that you understand somebody and kind of build a profile for that person, the better that you can relate to them. I've had so many meetings that have revolved around mutual hobbies and dogs and things that people love and things that people are passionate about. So the more there's so much on the internet that people share. I had a conversation with a financial partner and a financial wealth strategist, and he's super passionate about giving back and super passionate about philanthropy, and he belongs to 4 or 5 different boards to give back, and he writes about that. So we spoke so much about that because I kind of dug into what he did and what events he went to, and we had some commonalities from New York City and knew some of the same people. So the more that you build a profile for somebody before, the better it is. And then when you're speaking to somebody like the CFO, the CIO, or even a managing director, you can always look at the company page and then look up the CEO and find out what the goals are for that year. A lot of times CEOs will talk about the goals for 2021 and things they want to accomplish. And you can weave that into your sales pitch. So you can say, from what I understand, your CEO had mentioned in his keynote that you guys want to get stronger through technology this year, or you guys want to move more to the cloud, or you want to grow, or whatever it is. So it brings a little bit of authority when you have done your homework, not only about the person, the company leadership, and anything about the person, both personally and professionally. So and it's really nice to have a pre-call like research sheet in front of you. You don't have to use all the facts that are on it, but having it documented and having it prepared before a demo really will give you an edge in the conversation. And sometimes you'll end up going off on a tangent about nonprofits, or going off on a tangent about where they live or where they used to work. A lot of times when you're speaking with somebody and finding out where they used to work, I have sold into a lot of law firms, and these guys sometimes move around. So if I'm speaking to someone from Sullivan & Cromwell and they used to work at Fried Frank, I could say, oh, great, I know this person at Free Frank, or, how is working there, and get them to talk, because the people love to talk about themselves. And if you show that you put some interest into them as a person and asking them questions, you might ask them how it was working at being a partner or being an associate at Free Frank, and then moving over to Sullivan Cromwell, and they'll just start opening up and telling you what you need to hear to build a rapport with them. And how many of you guys now do pre-call research sheets before a meeting? Do you guys do that? Anybody? Lauren?
I've done some research.
Yeah, but there's not like you don't like have any like formalities or kind of list anything down on a sheet or have any process.
It is a line item on my prep process.
Okay, cool.
Research, yeah.
Cool, got it. Okay. So yeah, and also YouTube is a great place to look. So a lot of times these people do speeches, and watching a keynote speech from the people you're selling to or their leadership is certainly a powerful thing. Showing that you're paying attention, showing that you're listening is a really big part of building rapport with somebody, and making it a line item on your sheet. So Lauren, I know that you work with a company that you have a group that has these best practices built in. But does anybody else have a process for pre-call research today? Not so much.
Ryan, if you don't mind me just asking you, what are some of the things that maybe you do for pre-call research? I saw you nodding your head. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the group that, talks about your methodology or how you get into the mindset when you're doing this pre-call research?
Yeah. The most valuable thing that I've found is setting Google alerts for the company, the industry, and the contact, so that I'm up to date with whatever the web is talking about in relation to them. Mm-hmm. And also leading with content that's relevant to their position. So whether it's a hack that happened to one of their competitors, or if whatever it is within their industry that's affecting them, I like to get comfortable with that beforehand, as well as doing the personal research into their LinkedIn and their own background.
Cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Frank. Go ahead.
Yeah, Google Alerts is such a powerful thing that people don't use. So it's so great that you're utilizing it, even for prospects who are warm or getting into your ecosystem. Creating those Google Alerts for them will give you a reason to call them when it makes sense. So when you can set a Google Alert and put their name, their company name, and also even a term that might pertain to your industry. So are you pretty heavy using Google Alerts now, Brian?
Yeah, my Gmail account is only Google Alerts that I just leave running constantly. So it's a daily, it's at the start of my day, I start going through those alerts to find out kind of what's relevant, and then kind of pick my direction from there.
Okay, that's a great tip, and a great tool to be using. Yeah. And then once you guys get through with your research process before the meeting, how many of you guys have a questionnaire piece that you send off? Do any of you do that? So it kind of helps to make the meeting stick. And what a lot of my clients do is we create a Loom video, and then we embed a questionnaire inside of there. So it's a 1-minute video saying, hey, a 1-minute video introducing yourselves and looking forward to our meeting. Attaches a questionnaire. You don't have to fill it out, but it'll help make the meeting more productive. If you don't have time, no problem. We can go through the questions, but what you get there is a little bit of stickiness because they get a little video from you and you can see that they opened it. If they fill out the questionnaire, you have some more information to help get through the demo and use your time wisely and learn more about them. And it helps to cement the demo. A lot of times we send that, people see it, they end up sticking and showing to more meetings. So if you have people who are not showing to meetings, it's a great tool to shoot a quick hello video that's just a minute long with the questionnaire, because it does two things: makes it sticky and also gets you some more information. Any of you guys use
no, I have a question though.
Yeah.
What's the technology or platform that you use to do that? And that's part one. Part two is, do you have an example of one? I don't know if you could show it now or that we could see at some other point in time.
We could certainly send you an example afterwards. I don't know if I can grab one right now, but I can put it, Coop will note it down, and we can actually even just create a mock one, as a matter of fact, to show you branded with NerdWise stuff. But Loom is free. So Loom, Loom, and it's free and it's easy. And what it does is it records you and it records the screen at the same time. So there's a few different options and setups, and you can record yourself in the corner, like a little kind of bubble with you with the camera, and then their website. So what I do is I go on the client's website, so they see their website, and it's and then in the corner there's like a little round circle of me speaking, and I just would say something like, "Hey Dan, I'm really looking forward. I'm on your website here, checking out, learning a little bit about your company before our meeting. I'm really looking forward to it. Attached is a quick survey that of questions that you can go through to make our meeting a little bit more efficient. If you don't have time, no problem. We can go over the questions. And if you do have a quick 10 minutes, it would be great to collect some stuff from you." And then embedded, so I would embed that video into the email, and then I would add the survey. So you'll get an alert that they open the video, which is great. And what you find is that a lot less meetings don't show. If somebody's opened the video and seen it, sometimes it's just a nice little reminder in between.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you.
Frank, I think you did mention this to a degree, but when somebody watches that Loom video, you'll get an alert saying like such and such person watched your video pertaining to XYZ. So it's really nice to have that kind of closed loop when you're not just putting something out there in the universe and no one's actually like responding or engaging with it. You actually get confidently the answers that like somebody is actually looking at that video. And I would keep it kind of short, probably no more than a minute or under, just because of most people's attention span.
Yep, keeping it short is important. And also a good little tip is because Loom is recording the screen, going on their website. So it's actually a little bubble of you talking on their website. And when they see a little thumbnail, they'll actually see the picture of their website with a video, and they usually tend to click on it. So those little things, although they seem little, are big over time, because seeing your own website in a little video, you're like, what is this? You click it, and then you get that immediate feedback. So it's a good little tool, and Loom is free.
Yeah.
So it's great. It's great to use it. And then as far as for the survey technology, you can do a Google Sheet, you can do a Survey Monkey, you can do, there's so many platforms you can use to build a quick questionnaire. But if they fill that out, it's all the better, because they're engaged, they've gotten some, they've given you some more great feedback that you can then turn into a presentation, which is super helpful.
Yeah. And just to jump in, Lauren, I know, you put in the chat here, and everyone, you can always participate, your questions, your suggestions, whatever it is, feel free to, participate. This is all an open and welcoming environment. Lauren, what type of cyber stalking do you do when you do your pre-call research?
No, I mean, yeah, it's the LinkedIn is the biggest one. I mean, there's a small subset that wouldn't be LinkedIn users if they're a potential fit for us. I mean, they got to kind of value technology for it to be a potential fit for us, and that usually means similar, even at the decision maker level. So that's first and foremost. Obviously, the website those are the top two.
Cool.
General Google search after that, if I'm still not finding anything.
Does anybody use anything else other than LinkedIn, maybe YouTube? Does anybody do any other forms or methods of pre-call research that they've had success with? Or, feel free to speak up and, share your stories and your successes, or where maybe you have questions that we can hopefully answer for you.
YouTube is so great. Watching the person who you're going to sell to speak is really great. And yeah, and kind of putting it together, and cyber stalking pays off, as you know, Lauren. So it's definitely good to have in your process, and obviously you've got a strong process there. So it's great. And then as far as nonprofits go, digging a little deeper, a lot of these people who are in leadership positions are into nonprofits or particular interests, and bringing those up is super powerful. As soon as you mention something that is passionate to somebody, that somebody has a real passion for, they just connect with you more, and they want to talk about it. So if you want to get your client talking in the beginning of a demo, and mentioning some of these things that you found out about them are flattering, and also will open up dialogue to have them really speak with you, and not just be a question and answer dry sales environment, which I'm sure that you guys don't ever want to be in, because you're not in rapport, and if you're not in rapport, you're not going to get to a relationship and ultimately the sale. So really trying to find out cyber stalking people about what they're passionate about is huge. And then having some kind of a piece or component with a video. Lauren, you ever use video?
To search
Do you ever-
or to,
You ever use video?
as far as content or as far as,
No, I was saying like sending a video message, like a Loom or a Vidyard. No.
no,
Okay. I'm so. Do you guys mention that in your group? Because I know you guys said you share some best practices and stuff.
I don't know if anyone's used it. I have heard of some other peers do something like that.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely makes things a little bit more sticky, and as you get used to it, you get less camera shy. It's just another dimension to touch somebody and kind of stand out. Another thing that people use video for is post demo follow-up. So sometimes people write a follow-up email, but I've gotten quite a few follow-up videos where somebody will have 4 bullet points and send a minute video covering what the next steps are. So incorporating video is definitely a great thing to do if you get used to it. People tend to stick a little bit more to it, and making it trackable is very nice as well.
Yeah.
And then through cyber stories, and then through cyber stalking, you kind of get into building stories and talking about use cases for your clients. Do any of you guys have a library of stories that you use for clients where you built anything formal? So you use cases for clients when you're speaking to a law firm, stories about other law firms, or when you're speaking to a business, stories about other businesses that you guys use on the regular? Anything? No?
Well, I'll just ask, and it's okay if you don't want to participate. We always welcome it. But Beth, is there anything that you do for your pre-call research, or, the powers of stories where you leverage certain credibility or brands or logos in your discussion or in your follow-up or even in your introduction? Is there anything that you do in your pre-call research or, in the development of the power of stories when you're trying to create a connection there and some validity?
Yeah, so I'm serving as a marketer. We're, as Coop, that we're in the process of hiring salespeople. So I'm doing the follow-up and the engagement with our prospects that we're getting through NerdWise and other avenues. I do agree with the one gentleman. When I do account-based marketing, which is obviously very similar to account-based selling, setting up those Google alerts is super important. I typically, from a marketing standpoint, set them up for the company, but I love the idea of setting them up for the individual, because especially at a senior level, they could be popping up in news and things like that. I always, secondary to that, I always go to the Google search for any press releases, for any mentions of things that are happening within the company, and try to figure out a connection to where we might be able to plug in and connect with them, where they might be having a challenge, or if it's a merger and acquisition, there might be a play where we can have some involvement there. So I'm always looking for some kind of hook like that.
Yeah, being a little strategic, a little calculated, and people love when you start to follow them or their page, or you make a comment about maybe a workshop or an event or some type of published article. They know that you're starting to like them and follow them, and then that allows you to engage them at a higher level, because people love when you take interest in them, right? We know that people are going to be like, oh yeah, like, tell me more about that success story.
Yeah.
So that
As
is
somebody who is sold to regularly and throughout my entire career, that is super important. A delicate dance to engage with me is much better than coming on too strong.
Yeah.
So warming me up as a buyer is super important. So
Yeah, very nice. Thank you so much, Ben.
Sure.
And then, I'll just kind of throw out another question. Darshan, I know you joined us as well, and thank you for coming to this program today. Do you have anything that you do that's maybe different, or, that you'd like to add to this conversation in reference to like pre-call research, or maybe how you do some investigation, or maybe how you make the meeting stick, or just be a memorable part in somebody's day?
I've been following kind of the conversations, having good information. One of the things that traditionally, and we're in the midst of working with you guys to kind of pivot our whole approach, obviously. But in the past, a lot of it came from, you know, attending the big industry trade shows and really kind of understanding directionally, at least we're in the tech world, where things are headed, and try to almost get to that end destination before the customer gets there. So we've already got a solution in mind on the problems they're going to face, rather than trying to hear about their problems and coming up with something. We've kind of already got, you know, some directional guidance on where the trajectory is headed. So we used to count on that quite a bit. Obviously, with the pandemic, those shows have been gone. So it's been a little bit challenging to understand where the industry is kind of shaping up and heading. All of this stuff is great, but I think from an IT perspective, you know, it's a very fast changing world. Technologies that are relevant today become irrelevant in no time at all. So we kind of have to be very agile in our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. The landscape is dynamic. It is ever changing. And I do hope that some of those in-person events will start to roll out here in the very near future. It seems like that seems to be like the way that we're heading, fingers crossed. And Darshan, thank you so much for participating. And Bryant, speaking of technology, Darshan, Bryant knows everything about Zoom. He's got the raised hand icon going on. Bryant, what would you like to share or add to this conversation?
Yeah, just one thing that I never really hear anybody bring this up, but has literally just opened the pearly gates with especially C-level people, are podcasts, and listening to the podcasts that they've been on. You know, it takes a lot more of a time investment because you want to listen to the entire thing, but it's not a medium that's so widely used nowadays, or hasn't caught on to the level that you know, like a cold calling is, but really grabs their attention. So I've used quotes directly from a podcast in the subject line of an email. I've quoted, you know, them directly on a phone call, you know, that's relevant to the conversation that we're having. But like you said, people love talking about themselves. So when they realize that I have that deep of a commitment into understanding who they are, then they just open up wide. It's not something that anybody else has ever really brought to my attention, other than the fact that I'm a hardcore podcast person. So it's just, that is something that goes overlooked, that quite honestly is something that absolutely everybody should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a golden nugget right there, Brian. I mean, in addition to the LinkedIn and following them and Google Alerts, what you just shared with us was incredibly powerful. Because people, you know, podcasts are a very popular thing to syndicate content and value and information. And if they know that you're interested to that degree, that probably in their world and their mentality just like raises the bar for you. Like, I'm going to give Brian 5 minutes of my time because he's clearly done some work about me and taking an interest and a liking in what I do. Like, fantastic stuff.
And Brian, I got a question about that. How do you go about finding the podcast? Is there any particular searching methodology you use to find the podcasts?
No, I mean, I have a couple of different podcast apps, and it's the app searches work just like Google. So I will Google the contact's name, see if there's anything that they've been interviewed on or been recorded, and whatever the show is, it pops up the episode and lets me listen to it. It's really quick and efficient in finding out whether or not that type of media is out there that they've produced. But like I said, super powerful when you do find it. You get deeper insight without having to ask. You have to earn the credibility to ask the hard questions that they just freely give you information on during their interviews and discussions.
Yeah, it's hugely powerful. People doing it on podcasts is more and more, and you know, YouTube and video, I find the same. You know, a lot of times people get interviewed years ago or whatever else. So searching everywhere you can and listening to everything you can is great. It's a super great tip.
Cool. And then just to continue the conversation, you know, and looking at, once we've done the pre-call research, how we get people to pay attention to us, and now we're actually maybe in the discovery mode where we're engaged in communicating with folks. Has anybody ever fallen into the sand trap of trying to sell the thing that you want to offer and want them to buy instead of the outcome? Has anyone ever fallen into that sand trap? or would like to share a story about falling in that sand trap and maybe some changes they did to redirect their course?
Well, I'll bite the bullet. Somebody's got to do it. So, we've done that. I mean, obviously in IT, we'd love to sell them, the things that are ideal, but in reality, the customers aren't technical enough to know what they want. You just kind of have to, we've changed our whole approach. We just got to hear what they, if it's a hard drive that's making weird noises, we'll hear that versus telling them to move to a cloud platform or something like that. So that we know that tends to end up in a, less than ideal conversation. And unfortunately, or fortunately, the people that you're working with aren't always technical when you're dealing with customers. So you kind of have to just hear it. But yeah, we fall into that sand trap many times, and it's partly because of the way the industry works. The big OEMs compensate us based on solutions that they're wanting to push. So it's like a rock between a hard place, right? So if you work with Cisco, they're trying to push whatever new technology, and that's what you're out trying to pitch. But the customer doesn't care about that, right? They want to hear something different. So it's always a careful walk between the two.
So Darshan, you got to explain, you got to bring all that technical stuff into regular terminology and kind of understand their problem and then go high level and fix it.
Either that, or sometimes they don't even understand the high level issues that are causing it. In their mind, it's a small little, issue. They don't see what's under the water line, so to speak. And that's the toughest part, at least in our world, is to get the customer to want to look below the water line and actually be able to see below the water line. Those are always challenges for us. They only see the little piece of rock sticking up and think it's a small little issue, and wondering why we're trying to sell them on some big operation.
And are you able to ever tell them or address maybe the outcomes that they've experienced, like less risk of cybersecurity attacks, more profitability, just talking about the outcomes a little bit more to like a simple type of context instead of, very technical or trying to, approach it a different way?
We have, I think the challenge is that if it ain't broke or they don't see it broke, it's not broke. So they don't want to hear that there's opportunities to fix cybersecurity when everything for the last 5 years for them has been fine. Their IT person has been telling them it's been fine, even though in reality it may not be. Instead, I think part of it is focusing just on the limited piece that they have now that they're looking for help on. To your point, I think it's really kind of selling them the result that they're looking for. It may not make us a lot of money, but at least it gets you in the, in the door with the relationship. And then over time, what we're starting to do now is we've created these PowerPoints where we kind of give them a free assessment and kind of an educational kind of an approach where, hey, you know what, there's a better way of doing certain things. If you think it's worth exploring, let's do a pilot, etc. And then kind of slowly nudge them along in that direction.
Yeah. And I just want to, ask the group here, does anybody follow Brian Burns on LinkedIn? Anybody? Looks like Brian might.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So, Darshan, what you said, people might be in this mentality of, set it and forget it. And it's been great for 5 years, like that's awesome. And that's fine and dandy in Candyland. But he uses a terminology that maybe some people use and have had success with. I just want to throw it out there as a potential suggestion that things have changed. And we know that. And it's not just because of pandemic, but it's because of technology and cybersecurity and cyber attacks, and just sometimes approaching it where people are not really in tune with hearing you, just letting them know, like, I understand you think things have been great for the past 5 years and maybe they'll continue to be good, but we can't undermine how things have really changed even in just the past 10 to 12 months. But that's just a tip that I saw from Brian Burns and his many videos that I watch, and some of them are I find very valuable. And that was just one of the topics or the tips. So, well, Frank, is there anything else that you might want to share, to, keep the ball rolling?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you guys do your pre-call research and you kind of get into the demo, and you're sort of planning for the demo, do any of you guys do sort of a pre-demo planning where you're kind of writing down things that you're going to address and stories that you're going to share and things that you're going to do throughout the demo and kind of make notes for yourself? it's really good to have some kind of a written down format when you're going into a demo, especially kind of in the beginning stages after research, to have a guideline in front of you. So I think it's a really great practice to have some guidelines in front of you before going in and sort of have a plan, and then move from your plan, and be less slide focused and kind of more chatting and getting them to open up. So asking them things about themselves, asking them open-ended things, asking them things about call research, and getting them talking in the first 15 to 20 minutes, super important before kind of getting into the product and the service and all that. So any of you guys map out that process beforehand, or you just kind of jump in the demo? Brian, I would imagine you map it out. Do you map it out?
I do. I get super granular with it, because when I send out the meeting invitation, I don't send out an invitation without an agenda. But within my own agenda, I've got sub points and things that need to grab my attention that I touch on within the call. And I don't ever pull out the PowerPoint anymore, just because it's once I internalize it and I get used to it, they don't want to see it. So if I can introduce myself in a 2-minute elevator pitch and then focus the rest of the call on discovery and talking about them and the solution, then it tends to go much smoother and much more productive conversations in the shorter sales cycle as a result.
Cool. So you stay away from PowerPoint if you can?
Absolutely.
And is there ever a part or a point where you would pull it in for a reference, or is it totally banned?
It's totally banned up to the point that I reach a boardroom. So if I've got 5 or 6 people sitting at a conference table, and I can't customize it to each individual person just to give them the quick overview, I'll pull it out, but I don't even go through every slide. It's literally just a reference for specific points that I want to make and make sure that gets in front of their face. And then at that point, turns it around into the deep discovery.
Yeah. And as Coop can attest to in the NerdWise process, and we've been a lot of those phone calls, there are more conversations rather than, any kind of presentation material, especially on our first conversations. I mean, from the beginning, Coop, till now, even the reps, there's really not much slides. They're just more conversations. So
Yeah, you got to get to know somebody, understand their problems, address some solutions, develop what the outcomes could be, and then maybe a PowerPoint could be used for like what you've scoped out and what you've agreed to. But yeah, I'm all for less is more in conversation with a one-to-one human or within a small group. A lot of success can be there without having a PowerPoint. Just like kind of like we're doing today, like we have some slides in the background. It's not about what's on the slides. It's about like the theme and the spirit of the conversation and where it drives, where it drives it home.
Yeah, totally. And cool. And then after you guys get through a demo, does anybody have a process for next steps that they find really sticky, as far as putting something on the calendar for next time, making sure you have a next goal and kind of getting into it? Brian, are you granular on that too? I'm guessing you are.
I won't leave the meeting unless a next step is scheduled in the calendar in front of them.
Okay, so you're not getting off that phone until there's something else?
No, I mean, if there's a demo and we're in an actual meeting where there's next steps required, then I schedule the next steps right there without them getting off the call, and get verification that they received the calendar invitation as well. And because we have had issues of booking a site walk or a site assessment for whatever issue that they were looking to address, and then the person going completely ghost and no contact thereafter. So that has kind of solved that problem.
Okay, and if they're trying to bail, you kind of just like slow it down a little bit and jump back into the calendar at the end?
Yeah, well, if yeah, if they try and bail, then I didn't do something right in the discovery. So I
Absolutely.
go back to asking more questions and kind of reinforcing the purpose of why we're meeting in the first place.
Sure, sure. It's huge, huge. And then when you have your next steps, you mentioned shortening the sales cycle. So the more that you can get done in that first meeting through building rapport, getting into the issues and having next steps, do you find, Brian, there's anything that you do to shorten the sales cycle in between those where it's taken 3 or 4 or 5 calls, but you can move it to, 2 or 3 calls or 1 or 2 calls?
Yeah, I will initially have the call with the person that I made contact with, but there's always with what we do with IT and cybersecurity and all that, it's always multiple departments that are involved and multiple decision makers, whether that's legal or IT or HR, whatever. So in those situations, I will tell them that that's typically what is required to push this along and start asking discovery questions about how they get them involved and at what stage of the process they typically interact with them. And then at that point, I will ask them for a connection within those departments, and then I will repeat the same process with them, pulling all of them into the same meeting. That's the next step.
Sure. So a big part of the discovery plan is finding out who the players are and who's going to approve it and how many people have to sign off on it and the size of the organization. Super important stuff to get in the beginning. So that is all great stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, the biggest thing is nobody wants anyone to waste each other's time. So you want to be in front of the right decision maker who understands a problem, and that together you guys can come up with a solution to get over that hurdle. But if you're talking to, an SDR, when really you should be talking to like a VP of sales or a CEO, it's like that SDR is not going to be able to make a decision, and you're just kind of spinning your wheels. So you got to know in the discovery part, like, am I speaking with the right person? Like, are you the person I should be speaking with to help me resolve this problem for you and your business, of X, Y, Z. Very good, very good.
And there's also a lot of snags that you can run into in the demo process. And we talk about reverse engineering the objections before they come. So kind of writing a list of objections and asking some questions. A lot of software products have to integrate with other software products and API connections. So a lot of times we have some financial software clients and their solution has to integrate with 2 or 3 other solutions to make it work, or if you're selling an ERP. So really asking those questions and having those mapped out as well in the beginning is super important, because you don't want to get through a presentation where you have the right fit, the right product, everything's great. You didn't realize that the 2 other softwares they're using don't talk to your software and there's no way to connect them. So those are other considerations, obviously, in software sales, not as much in IT, but I'm sure that there's things within IT that you can kind of ask compatibility to get ahead of problems before they happen.
And Frank, this is just a question to the whole group. Anyone can answer. You can chat it. You can, unmute yourself and ask or share your comments. But how long do people spend doing the pre-call research? Do they spend an hour? Do you spend 30 minutes, 5 minutes? Like, anybody want to share how long they maybe spend when it comes to the discovery or the pre-call research, and how much time you actually spend?
Brian, it's got to be like 4 or 5 hours.
No, it depends on the size. Depends on the size of the opportunity and the customer. It can be as long as a minute, while the call is ringing out, or 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending, because most of the time you don't reach them on the first call. So you already know that you're interested and that there's a need there. So doing that deeper background stuff before you have your next interaction with them makes it more powerful. Capturing my biggest weakness is just physically reaching them. Like, they're all so freaking busy that you can get them one day and then go 3 months without reaching them on the phone again and just talking to voicemail. So really being prepared in that time, in the intermediate is what drives the success on the next interaction that you have with them. Because you gotta monopolize their attention while you got it.
And especially when you're banging through a lot of phone calls and you're going phone call to phone call, right? And you left, and let's say, you've been in the situation, right? You've left 45 voicemails and you're in like calling mode. All of a sudden you get the right person on the phone and it's game time, because that might be the only time you talk to that person for a long time. So being able to switch gears and having the right thing to say when you're speaking to the right person is super important. I see an SDR leave 45 voicemails, the 46 calls, someone picks up and it's the right person and they're just kind of in voicemail mode and they're not ready for the person. So when you have that golden opportunity to speak with somebody, it's really important to know it's game time.
Awesome. And then just to, ask some more questions, Nico, I saw that you're on the line and, you're with Link, and I'm just curious, what do you do possibly, if you're willing to share with everyone on the line, what do you do for your pre-call research or, to make your meeting sticks to create those next steps? Is there anything that you'd like to share with us as a group?
Hi, Gob. Hi, everyone. I mean, I think everyone already named the things I usually do. It's basically some research about the client, LinkedIn, Google, check about the company, and basically we have some sort of case studies. I mean, successful cases where our program basically worked or helped to thrive to our client, and basically focus the conversation in that way. After I know that the kind of client they are, I basically already know which program would work and how we could help them. But basically, after the research, what I get the most is that question for the clients. That is basically what I use the call for. And basically, I'm learning some additional tools like Google Alert. I didn't know it, and we do not use the Loom tool that you already mentioned. That I'm taking notes.
You just go to useloom.com and you'll get plenty of free access, free storage. And what I do honestly is you'll get this little widget up here, and you'll start to be able to record. And like Frank said, you can have your face down here in the corner. You could be viewing on somebody's website or going through LinkedIn, whatever it is. It's a very easy tool to use. It's free. And it's one that I recommend trying out. Tried a few. This one seems to be the easiest. And it's been a partner of mine for probably the better part of like 3 to 4 years. Definitely a good one to have. So if you ever want to go, I guess in this case, it's loom.com now. It must have changed. And then Dominique, I know you and I first kind of met earlier today. You've been with us for a few weeks, but as far as our engagement, you and I, we just first connected really today. Do you do anything different for your pre-call research or how you make meetings stick? Or, do you have any stories that you try to leverage when you're having these conversations to build that credibility? Maybe you're not on anymore, maybe not. Yeah, still see you there, but that's all right.
There we go.
There you
She's
go.
muted right now. There she is.
There we go. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, I use Zoom Info quite a lot. It gives us a lot of information on the representatives within the company and gives us kind of like company updates on what's going on and what they might be interested in looking into, or just usually going on their company website and reading their newsletters.
Okay. Good stuff. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. And then does everybody on this line, do you try to build case studies, find the valuable, partners you have, the champions that would speak highly of you? Like, do you guys tend to leverage that or lean on that at all?
I haven't done it. I'm relatively new in my position. here at BTI, but I used to do it a lot in the past, especially when I was working within an account. I did a lot of, I would start with one manager and then go around to different, my job is to work with the project managers and then to market our IT, I was with an IT staffing company. So I did that a lot, just as far as trying to leverage one into the next. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And just,
Yeah. I had success with Brian at this firm and he's the manager. Now I want to be that same success story with you. Kind of
exactly.
like domino.
And when it works, definitely. And when it works, it's so powerful because it really shortens. It's like, just friends. Someone can vouch for someone else and they've had a positive experience. They're like, yeah, it just makes it so much easier.
Yeah. And I would challenge everybody on this line that, if you ever have a great success story, see if they being your partner would allow you to run a case study or to develop a program, because you don't know unless you ask. And I know exactly what happens when we don't. So if you're finding that there's opportunity there, like that's 100x activity and 100x opportunity. Because Ray, like you and I could say, Ray, you're the coolest guy in the room. I'm the coolest guy in the room. But if Suman or Brian says it or Frank says it, and like you're working with Ray and BTI, like you're gonna have great success. And like that whispering influence is 100 times more powerful when it comes from someone else outside of that organization, but has experience with you.
Yep. And I know we have a lot of those kind of stories here, at BTI. So it's just a matter of me getting, more involved and getting into the loop as far as getting more familiar with everything. So yeah, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. And Coop, I know that we've had a lot of luck with video testimonials as well.
Excuse me.
So having them do videos, we had it for NerdWise, I've had it for myself and for a lot of clients. So when someone's willing to do a video testimonial and you can turn that into a marketing piece, it's like social proof and a marketing piece at the same time. And we've got some real great success stories and happy people who are happy to, and the video kind of is something that is very reusable and very shareable. So, when people ask for references, a lot of times we have clients who have a set of 4 or 5 videos kind of cut up talking about different experiences their clients have. And it's a really powerful booster and a good start and a good way to get somebody to talk to you again. So video content is always great, especially with happy customers.
Yeah, and it can be almost timeless unless you change products or services or industries. Like that stuff should be fairly timeless. It should be able to be recycled. And if you have an assortment, a variety of them, you can create these nice little snippets or montages. And that stuff can be syndicated on not only your personal channels through social media, but it should be syndicated on your company profiles and anywhere that you can get that extended reach organically, like always do it. And I would say if you're trying to garner more testimonials or video types of spotlights, make it easy for your partner. Let them know what they should maybe say, kind of like template it out and give them the easy button. It's like, hey, my name is Frank Stone. I work with NerdWise. We had this problem. They helped us solve it here. And I would recommend them for anybody who's in the MSP or IT or cybersecurity industry. Like make it easy to them. Be the Scottie Pippen or the Michael Jordan and just lay it up there for them so that they can dunk it home. Because if you don't give them parameters or guidelines, you don't really know what to expect. And it might not be great, but if you can give them some best practices or some targeted content or some questions that you want them to answer or statements you want them to make, like give them the easy button. Give them the easy button. When all else fails, just try to make it as easy as possible for them.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll ask, what do I say? And you can just give them a quick bullet points of how long we've been together. We're working together for 2.5 years. This is what we did. They can kind of read it off and it becomes a little script. They can have whatever they like, but it's good to supply them with facts and make it as easy, like Coop said, as possible.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, Frank, is there anything else? Let's see here. Is there any other questions that people maybe have about the power of pre-call research or anything that we've discussed here on the line today? Anything that is burning in someone's mind that is a question or something that they'd like to share that's valuable for the entire crew here? Cool. Well, another thing as we continue to roll out these weekly programs, we'll have the email communications, and you see some of the topics and themes that we're going to be presenting here in the upcoming weeks. But are there any topics or programs that people might be interested in when it comes to marketing, sales, and maybe their relationship with NerdWise? Any topics that you guys and girls might be interested in hearing about or having us discuss or present? Just to give you an idea, next week we're doing one on mindset and attitude, which is going to be a real powerful one with Jessica Magooch, who's the CEO of JPM Partners. I know we've always got the monthly go-to-market planning event with Jose Palomino, the first Tuesday of every single month. And then I know we're doing a partnership type of program with Woodpecker, who we leverage their email platform for many of our partners, as you guys all know. And if there's ever a topic or a theme or just something that you really think is burning with value, like, let us know, because we want to be able to adapt and adopt these to be exciting, and the more feedback, the more information, the better we can kind of tailor these programs for you guys and girls.
Okay.
Yeah. Ray, I
We'll
see
think about it, definitely.
Cool. Lauren, I'm going to call you. Anything that you want to share that was a big wisdom nugget that you uncovered today, or anything, any wisdom you want to share with the group before we kind of sign off here in the near future? I think you're still on mute, and it's okay. There we go.
Sure thing. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's always a good reminder. Some things that I've heard before that I've never done that. It's always been a good idea. It's like, but maybe now I'm closer to doing it, like, some more of the video type engagement. Yeah, we're looking to redo our client video testimonials as well. It's always good to get that in there. But maybe I can include that some more in our the client pre or the potential client engagement type stuff.
Cool.
Good reminder. Yep.
Yeah, it definitely seems like we uncovered a couple real big things, like Google Alerts, huge opportunity. Bryant with the podcast, like out of this universe creative, like really, really awesome. Frank, sharing that there's a power in using video for asking questions or creating next steps. Like, that stuff's really awesome. And then Ray, just like you said, the power of strategic accounts, where if you have success with one manager at an MSP or whatever, it could be a law firm, leveraging those opportunities to create others within that same organization, just might be in a different area. So that's always
Right.
And then overall, just the power of having stories for brands and success and case studies. So if we're going to do that, like, do that consistently. And if you don't have that in your arsenal, make it easy to have your partners, your champions, your customers to deliver that to you, give them the layup, give them the easy button. So I think there's a lot of stuff that we uncovered today. And, I definitely thank everybody for participating and joining us and hopefully coming away with something that's very valuable. Even if it's just one thing, that's one more thing than you had before here.
True that.
Cool.
Exactly.
All right.
Sorry it was tardy, guys, but yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Coop.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for joining, everybody. Frank, any final words of wisdom that you might want to share?
Yeah, it's a learning process, and we all, like Lauren said, kind of know a lot of this stuff, and you hear it and you read it, but you don't apply it. So same thing in daily life. There's good sales habits that you just want to get back to, and sometimes as we go through our sales career, you get away from the basics and realize that the basics are really strong, and you kind of got to get back to some of the basics because they work. So,
Coop, I got one last request as far as content wise.
Yeah, shoot it.
And providing some insight and advice for time management on all the different areas and things that we need to do as salespeople and marketers, and how that interacts with marketing, I think would be super, super valuable, and is something that I haven't seen before.
Oh, I would love to do that. That's something that we do very often here at NerdWise, because we are primarily remote based. It's like, we need to know how we're spending time, and are we spending on time on things that could be potentially automated? Are we spending time doing too much on the pre-call research, or like, are we doing the wrong types of projects within our own swim lane? So I love that idea about time management and getting to the heart of the problem or the goal, whatever it is. That's a great topic. because that's one that we have to consistently do, especially when we're remote. It's different when you're in a brick and mortar. You can see who's doing what, you can hear how the calls are going, you can see how people are spending their time, you can have lunch with people and have these conversations, but it's much more difficult when you're in your own vacuum and knowing like, well, am I really working on the right things? And am I spending too much time doing these things? And by doing these like time management projects, you really start to uncover where you're spending a lot of your time and maybe where you should be spending more or less. So that will definitely be a topic here in the near future, Brian. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, everybody, I thank you all for joining, participating. There will be another program next week that's all about attitude and mindset. And Brian, I believe your wishes will become a reality in a couple weeks.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Thanks again, everybody.
Dreams coming true. There we go.
Yeah, keep an eye out for the email communications from myself and the team. I will follow up with calls. If there's anybody that's on your team in your business, they can join because they're a part of your organization.
Okay.
Bring them here. If they can learn something and there's value there, that's awesome. So feel free to spread the word to your friends, your peers, and people internally in your networks. And we'll look forward to having them join as well.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
everybody, signing off.
Thank you, guys.
Everyone. Thank you, Kumon.
Okay, bye-bye now.
Later, Ray.
Thank you.
Later, everybody. Nico.